I had a hobby too. Mine happened to be guns and ballistics, and I studied guns and ballistics as much as I could, and I wrote an article about high velocity.
So out of all my years working at Weatherby, the last 5 have been some of the most exciting. Working with Adam, with him running the company.
And to think that I get the opportunity of carrying on my grandfather's legacy 75 years later here in Sheridan, Wyoming, I mean, it really is a dream come true.
Oh, I'm home. Thank God I'm home.
On our mark, the Weatherby Podcast.
All right. On our mark, the Weatherby Podcast. We've got a special guest, 2 special guests today. Neither have been on the Weatherby Podcast before.
Yeah.
I'm excited. So we've got our own Kyle Killen. He's our international sales manager and de facto shotgun waterfowl guru. That's an actual on his card.
Yeah.
Whoa.
It's going on foil now, too.
Wow.
Yeah. I probably shouldn't have said that because now maybe he's going to put it on his card.
I'm going to Sharpie every single one.
I hear the air.
And
Pressure increasing.
we've got also Mr. Final Approach, Mario Friendly. Welcome.
Appreciate it, bud.
Can you just start off? You know, we've done some stuff together this year. It's pretty cool. We kind of teamed up for content, and that's been a lot of fun. But part of the reason that we wanted to team up, or we talked almost exactly a year ago, was you guys have been revamping Final Approach. We've been trying to step up our shotgun game. Like we were talking, I just gave a tour.
Yeah.
You know, we sometimes forget that we do shotguns, even though this year we're going to ship more shotguns than rifles. Right. And that's not because we're not shipping very many rifles. There's a lot of rifles going out the door. But we're so focused on ballistics and Magnum rifle performance that we sometimes forget to talk about how awesome our shotguns are. And so we wanted to team up with you guys for content because we're really happy with Final Approach gear and the direction that you guys are headed and thought it dovetailed really well with where we're at. So, you know, the floor is yours. So tell us what our people would love to hear about Final Approach.
So the cool thing about just what you were talking about first, and then I'll get into the history, but, you know, we're rebranding it.
Right.
And you guys aren't rebranding anything, but you guys are, like you said before on the tour, like, hey, we have really good shotguns. Like, this isn't like we didn't just come up with this idea.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't just make one like 15 minutes ago. Like, we're in. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I jumped at the chance, you know, to do this because you guys want to make a big splash. We're coming back to make a big splash, and then that'll take me back to the history because Final Approach, you know, 91 was, and actually was before that because 91 was really the start of the sales, let's call it.
Okay.
Right? So Ron Latchaw, Grants Pass, Oregon, started everything. And, you know, he was making the blinds there. He had a guy up in Washington that he met a little bit later, Duke Levan, who was making the frames.
Right.
Right? They were hand sewing the fabric for the blinds, like the first ones. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I mean, those are the first mass production ones that everybody knows of the layout blind. There was an old slider blind, it was called, which was all like wood and like on rollers, and it was huge, right? Mm-hmm. And you'd have to leave it in the field. Like there was no way you were packing that out, right?
It wasn't
not an option.
Yeah, right on.
Right. So that slider blind turns into the original Eliminator, right? So 91 starts, and Ron was so far ahead of his time with that layout blind. If you really, you know, go back and think about, like, I remember being a kid and laying on the ground, you know, we would get in a row of corn and take the corn all the way out and lay plastic down, then burlap, then lay down and put your blind bag behind your head, which was really like a rucksack. There wasn't even a blind bag back then, you know what I mean? And then you'd lay down and cover yourself with burlap and then throw more corn stalks on top of you. And then if you were lucky and you had a 747 shell, you'd put that over your feet, right? And then it was on, right? So this layout blind comes out and changes everybody's outlook on it, and how to waterfowl hunt, how to hide better, how to hide in the middle of a field. So it just goes nuts. So Final Approach grows a little bit, and Ron wants to expand the company, and it gets sold to Kolpin, which was a motorsports, a power sports, all kind of stuff.
They make ATV mounts for like gun
100%.
holders and stuff like that. Yep.
So that partnership starts rolling, and it goes good. You know what I mean? And they start making more blinds, and he has more capital, and because Ron's an innovator, his head, it just doesn't stop. You know what I mean? Like he can't sit down. Like there's always something going. He's one of those guys, and there's only a few guys in certain industries they're like that. They just don't, they just don't stop. Like, and you know them off the top of your head who they are. So that partnership goes well, and Final Approach starts becoming this huge brand, and now they have the capital and the sales team and everybody to push, it everywhere. And it's in Canada, and it's in the U.S. It's in every state, and everybody's starting to buy them. And then the company gets sold again to Bushnell.
So Kolpin sells
to Bushnell.
Okay.
And then as the sales go, and I don't have to go through all of them, but as the sales happen, it happens 2 or 3 more times. And it just happens where there's a bigger company and less time to maybe work on Final Approach, or less people that are, Kyle and I talk about this all the time.
It's getting diluted each time.
Yeah, and not the diehard, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's not like, I'm nuts. Like somebody goes, have you chased big game? I don't have time. Like I've never shot a deer. Like, no, listen, I have never shot a deer. I don't care. Right.
Yeah.
So
I love that. Like singular focus.
So I go, that's all I do. So having me and a couple other guys who are just as nuts as me in this, that's what started it all. So,
awesome.
So me going way, way back, I pro staffed when it was a pro staff.
Okay.
The real deal, when you would go to events and work, and like it was a whole different deal way back.
Yep.
I pro staffed for Ron and Final Approach.
No
That was
kidding.
my first deal. So I come full circle all the way back. And I still talk to Ron to this day. Like I keep in touch. We BS all the time. So him and I are on great terms. He's always checking on to see how it's going, because
awesome.
That's his baby still.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we've come full circle in that, and we've come full circle on the products. And, listen, there was a stretch where, a couple of the factories weren't good, right? Sure. And you had a lot of returns, or stuff was breaking. And, I mean, you guys aren't into that section where it's like, hey, this can save us 30 cents. Let's do this.
Right.
Right. And it's also not something that can fire a projectile. So, and the liability
product lines for sure.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So, so you can't even, I mean, you could do that on some accessory items, or, say a butt pattern, you know what I mean? Something minor, right? That doesn't affect the actual
for the most
firearm.
part on our stuff. Once we have the finished recipe, there's no changes.
Right.
And if there is, it's like, it's like monumental, because we retest the whole system.
Right. So then they go, it almost goes dark. The brand almost goes dark. It's like unattended, right? And I mean, you've seen it all, Kyle. You watched it come all the way through and go bad. And when it was going bad, I don't know how you felt, but I felt terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I remember the year, like it was like 2007. I totally remember. I got a couple blinds, and literally we were on an early goose hunt, and everybody sat back and all the pins popped. And I went, what? And then couldn't get them fixed, or this and that. And they couldn't get a hold of anybody. And I was like, I'm going to have to buy a different brand of blind. Like, I was like, that hurt. Like, honest to God, it hurt. Mm-hmm. And I did for a while, and that sucked. Like, that was like, it was like taking life out of me doing that. Like that was like, it was almost like cheating. It was bad. It was bad. I can't even explain it. It was that bad.
I know what you mean, where you've got, you hold a brand or a product up to this certain expectation, and then for some reason maybe it starts failing you, and you're like, no, this can't be happening.
No way.
I mean, you saw that.
I did.
Yeah.
That's why I still have my original eliminators. Like, buddy of mine bought one and it fell apart, and I was just like, I'm staying with my eliminator. I don't care if they're a pain to pack in.
I won't give it up. I
Yeah.
still have my original that I bought. That's
No
older
kidding.
than my kids.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get big into waterfowl, and that was my inception into hunting until like 2004. The year I got married, actually. Like, that's when I really started hunting a lot, and then I just got ate up with it and loved it. Had some friends. We just had this group. We were waterfowl hunting all the time, and we were like, hunting season's over. That's awful.
Yeah, you wanna cry?
So we're like, we still want to hang out. So we started a chapter of Ducks Unlimited.
There you go.
And we did that for several years, and then I got on Drake Waterfowl's pro staff in this era that you're talking about. So
Yes.
I remember some
yeah.
of those issues
It was different.
with things.
It was different. There's no doubt. Well, and then there wasn't social media, obviously.
Not to the level that it is today, for sure.
No, there was like some forums
Yeah.
that you
Yep.
get on some
Yeah.
website chat forums, and but there also wasn't, like, if you were on the pro staff, like you got like the pro staff hoodie that you could not buy and could not find, and there wasn't a lot of guys on the pro staff.
There was
pro
no
team.
reason to be on it other than like you just really were passionate about it.
Yeah,
it's
you
not
were-
like you
Exactly.
got anything out of it.
But
a
you were
slight
so,
discount.
Yeah, but you were so into it,
Right.
and they could tell you were so into
For
it
sure.
that they're like, this guy's a mouthpiece.
Yeah.
So all this, influencer social media stuff goes way back. You know what I mean? Because we were doing that like 100 years ago. You know what I mean? Like way back. So, the thing about waterfowl hunting, you said, like, with your buddies and stuff like that, and maybe that's why I've always gravitated to that, because I enjoy people. I enjoy obviously the birds and calling and everything about it, and the dogs, and
Yeah.
just run the whole thing, right? But it's hanging out, and you can talk, and you can
Yeah,
BS, and everybody's, jokes.
I've somewhat transitioned to big game. I probably, if I'm being honest, do enjoy that more than waterfowl hunting now. But there's still a place where, like, we can go and BS in the blind. Hopefully we do that tomorrow.
right.
Yep.
We're in the duck blind tomorrow morning. And I don't care what I smell like. I don't care what you smell like. I a little bit do.
Start easy to the edge of the panel.
Showers,
you can be
please, for a
loud,
little
and then
bit.
somebody's going to be like, birds. And then we get
And then
quiet.
everybody-
And
yeah.
then we're like getting serious. Like, okay, what's the game plan? I'm going to show you guys how to call. And then it'll be awesome.
The thing, as soon as somebody says anything, it is it's the funniest thing in all of hunting, I think, is that, because even the dog is keyed in.
Yeah.
If I say on the right,
Yeah.
everybody, and even the dog now is, he's too
He
much.
knows something's up.
He's,
Oh, yeah.
he's way too much right now. He hasn't even turned 2, and he, like, just last week I was like, on the right. Like, I didn't even say, like, on the right. Like, I didn't even.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yep.
now he knows the words. Like, come
Yeah.
on.
Yep. I got early on, I had a really great lab, and he got to the point where I didn't have to look for birds anymore. I just had to watch my dog, and as soon as he had this, like, his ears would perk up,
Yep.
and he would look out.
You know
I'm like,
exactly where to look.
I can't even see birds, but I guarantee you, get ready.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we do the same thing with our lab growing up. It was like
Yeah.
radar system. You just watch his head slowly
100%.
turning, and all of a sudden he'd lock on. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, here we go.
Game on.
Yeah.
I think that the dog and the social element adds so much to duck hunting that you can't do that. I think for me, the closest thing on big game is probably antelope, because I don't always truck hunt, but when I do, it's for antelope.
Right.
And
it's fun.
you're rolling around with some buddies in the truck, and you're glassing for. You don't have to be so anal about all the other finer
Everything.
details,
Yep.
But I still love big game hunting. Anyway,
Well, and it's
this is your story. I'm
but
sorry.
listen, it's a great hunt to get young people, and not necessarily young people, but could be kids,
Yeah,
older people,
for
anybody
sure.
who just wants
For
to go
sure.
try something different because, like you said, they don't have to be quiet as much. They don't have to, they don't have to do as much. They could have a good time. You could cook. You
Yeah.
could do whatever.
Yeah.
Like, all bets are off. You could do whatever you want.
For sure.
Right? And if you shoot a couple birds, that's a bonus. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. My passion goes, way, way back when I was a kid. So coming full circle and working on Final Approach, we've pulled in everything. Like, so Vista was the last person to own it, the last company. So we get it from Vista, and it literally is like a fact-finding mission for about a year.
I bet.
And it's like, and they were great at helping us figure out like what was where, but it was like, get all the factories and figure out, is this factory doing a good job or are they not? And going through it was through the details. And we ended up moving a couple of the factories and almost back to a place where we had started. So, it's just this crazy loop, but, like the people that do it right, just do it right, no matter what it is. So we come back and now it's to the point of we're pressing hard and we are rebranding and bringing this back with a vengeance because I have the pride from, when it first came out of what I want it to come back to and be like, you know what I mean? So I have that Ron Latchoff Final Approach passion when he started it. So I want to make sure that, you get a blind and it doesn't break, right? And you get some decoys and the paint doesn't come off. And we make a jacket that doesn't cost you $1,000 and does the same thing. You know what I mean? Like, honest to God, like that's what we're trying to do. Like, I want like a regular waterfowl guy to get great stuff and have fun and enjoy it. And we've done everything in our power to, like I said, make the cut and sew products and the blinds as best we can. And the decoys, we went whole other level. I mean,
They're legit.
we went to Pat Godden has won the World Decoy Carving Championship 17 times. Okay.
That's it. Weak.
The next closest person to him, I believe, is Tom Christie, who's won 7.
Wow.
And we have Pat and Tom.
No kidding.
And then we have Wayne Simkin and Jamie Welsh, and they have both Wayne's 2-time, Wayne's 3-time, Jamie's 2-time, or opposite. I'm not positive on them, but they have a bunch, and they've placed in all these shows and done all this stuff. So there's like 30 championships
Right.
that these guys have done. So it's like, what a widgeon looks like? Yeah.
Yeah.
Have Tom do it.
Kind of do.
You know what I mean? So, I wanted to go overboard on the decoys as far as, because that's the flash. That's what you see, and I wanted stuff that was bold. We have a high-head widgeon that has his mouth open, like whistling. Like, that's what they do. They just have an attitude. You know what I mean? And I wanted all the decoys to have an attitude of what that decoy does. And that's why, when we sat down, we started picking carvers. Like, oh, I want Tom to do this, and I want Pat to do this, and Jamie's going to do this, and Wayne's going to do that. Like, everybody has
Their own personality.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that comes through on the decoys so crazy. Like, I don't know. I don't know if that's hard to people understand, but like if you look at carvers, like everybody has their own style.
Sure.
But every bird has its own attitude. If you take a lot of pictures of, like, say a widgeon, like they have such mannerisms and they're so different.
I got maybe a dumb question for you.
I love it.
But because maybe not everybody that listens to our podcast is a hardcore waterfowl guy, can you explain what a decoy carving competition looks like?
Yeah. So, say the world championship. So the world rig is what it's called,
okay.
Right? That's the highest honor. Okay. They give the species out for that rig a year before.
Yeah. So you have a year to get ready.
Yep.
Whoa. Okay.
So it's going to be.
So they announce mallard. Let's pick an easy one.
Yeah. And if it's the world rig, it's a pair of mallards and another bird
that you choose.
It could be another mallard.
It could be a teal.
Kyle
whatever.
could do a black duck in there.
Okay.
Like, you can do whatever, right?
Okay.
Like you have at it. And you've seen some of the world rigs that have been done. Like, it's.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, they're at the Ward Museum, which is, the decoy carving museum, the Ward Museum, after the Ward brothers, who were like instrumental in carving and all kind of stuff, antique gunning, decoy, and just incredible stuff, right? And the contests and all that. So I have a year to complete that, and then
So is there a
judge it.
specific pose or anything like that? So it's just you make a decoy that's a mallard and at a pair of mallards and your bonus bird.
Yeah. Yep. And then it depends on what category you're in. You could be in like the gunning category where it has to self-right. So when you throw it in, it has to self-right and sit upright.
Right.
You know what I mean? So then you have to balance it.
You have to have a keel and all that involved.
Right. And you got to counterbalance. You got to put
Right.
lead here and lead there. So when it's floating exactly correct.
Just perfect.
Doesn't list either way. I mean, so that's bananas. Like, that is intense. And then there's so many categories, but they always do one where it's just like, go for it. Like,
Yeah.
they'll pick a
Free
best in
for
show.
all.
Yeah, they'll pick like a best in show. They walk around and they might pick like a little sandpiper or something that was just like, everybody's like, holy God, it's the best thing here.
So,
Like,
what's the judging look like? So it's not just carved; it's carved, painted, and
it's
like
everything.
it's-
Yes.
They're looking for realism.
Yeah, I mean, they're looking for anatomy first, right? Then
Right.
they're looking for
It's got a bill, not a beak.
yeah. I mean, they but you're
Sure.
talking about guys who have probably won it before and
Right.
know what they're looking for, and maybe they're not in it this year, or they're retired, or they carved enough ducks and geese to they got
Right. It's not a bunch of kindergartners voting on what a duck looks like.
And I mean, the paint scheme comes into it and how accurate it is. And I mean, it's just,
Feather detail.
it's
That's so cool.
looking,
So cool.
looking at it. It's incredible. And going back to Tom, like, Pat is incredible, right? Pat Gunn is like, they both have books coming out, right? Because the people that, the War Museum and people that sell books and books about carving, these two guys are so up there, right, that they're doing books. So they're going to do all, like Tom's doing his about his world rig, and Pat's doing a carving book. Like, they've done so many things like that to help that core part of the waterfowling.
Super cool.
And it's unbelievable. And Pat's got a biology and
A degree.
in biology,
Yeah.
and his like whole center focus was mallards. I mean, if you have a question about a mallard, he has the answer. And you might throw him something that you might pick something off the wall and he has the answer.
No
It's
kidding.
scary. Yeah. We're
Like,
short
what's the
story.
average heart rate of a mallard?
We're in Missouri and we shoot a duck, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh man, that's really late for that duck to be not plumed out, right?
Yeah.
And Pat grabs it and he's looking at it. He's looking at the feathers. He's looking at the tail. He's looking at the bill. And I'm like, Pat's like, so now it looks like a Drake mallard and like half a hen, right? So it's got like some green on it
Right.
and a lot of the hen brown,
Yep.
right? And Pat said, this is an old hen. I said, what? He said, this is an old hen. He said, when they get really old, their female, like say it's the estrogen,
Okay.
starts going away.
Okay.
And the male, like,
Testosterone.
starts coming in.
Okay.
Now, obviously, that's not the
Yeah.
correct.
I don't know what duck testosterone
Correct.
is, but yeah.
I never heard that in my life. And
No
he's
kidding.
explaining the whole deal to me. I'm like floored. And everybody, there's like 6 of us in the pit, right? There's ducks going everywhere, and nobody's watching birds.
He's just talking about this.
Everybody's like, what? Did you ever hear that?
No, I've never heard that actually.
That's
Bro.
pretty cool.
So I was like floored. So you talk about him, he's like doing stuff like that. But then I go to Tom Christie and I say, hey, Tom, we're thinking about like doing a widgeon. Like, well, what do you think? Like hi-hat, like, so I tell him what I want. And like the next day or 2 days later, he comes back with a sketch, right? And I'm not talking like, me
Like
and
if I
you.
drew it. Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about like a sketch that's like
Yeah.
you could put in a frame and on the wall.
Yeah.
And
Like could win like a duck stamp competition sketch.
I mean, it's not painted, but it's in pencil.
Yeah.
And he does that. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a more talented person
That's
on
awesome.
that side, like
So
drawing, and then it's the carving. Like he's got that. Like that side of his brain
That's awesome.
is huge.
That's awesome.
So we have some super talented people in this. You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
are just all in. And the good thing about the carvers and then we go to the factory, I have a little certain thing that I won't talk about on what we do with the guys, but
Okay.
But when the paint schemes come back from the factory, I show them to the carvers.
Right.
And I let them
Critique.
tell me, yes.
Yeah.
And that has gone a long way because they have absolutely, all four of them have worked for other companies at some point
So they know some things.
and carved birds. And then it goes to the factory and it comes back and you're like, and they have no say. And it doesn't look good, right? So now you have, like, if you're a creative person, right? You made this incredible bird and you painted it and it looks incredible. And then you send it to the factory and it comes back.
It doesn't look as incredible.
No. And I told them, like, that was like my main focus on the decoy side was to make the factory step up so much that they had to get as close to you guys as possible. And I think they appreciated that the most out of everything.
How do you paint a duck decoy in production? Are they hand painted? Really?
It's an assembly line, and those guys are and gals are extremely talented. Yes.
Wow.
And I know there's painters in the U.S. that can do that. I mean, obviously we're overseas painting and molding, but you know how fast they are and how accurate and
Yeah, I mean, I've seen your decoys. They look great, but like what's a dozen mallard decoys cost retail?
right now, like the live mallards, I think we were just burning them out at like $100 or $120. Like we're just, and that one had a bag.
So $10 a decoy?
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, you can't
Well,
make
you
it
got
yourself.
to,
For
and all
Yeah.
the materials, like we just talked about everything else, you know what I mean? All the materials are going up. So plastics are going up and paint's going up and everything's going up and the freight's going up. So you're trying to be as competitive as possible and still make money. It's a business. I have to make money for the company or, you know.
For sure. What's the point?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not there. So we're doing all that we can. But, and I've been to China and been on the paint line, and which was cool because I've ran an airbrush for a long time. So I learned from a guy that showed me how to do decoys.
That's cool.
So when I went over there, you know, we're sitting in the office and I'm saying, I want the mallard, like I want this part just like this. And they're like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, I want it like this. And they're like, and I said, well, let's go in the back and I'll show you. And they're like, what? Like they were blown away. And I was like, give me the gun. And I sit there and I'm like, I want you to do it like this. And they're like, oh, that's a good idea. So, you know, that part is huge for what you see on the shelf. You know what I mean? And like I said, the carvers are, nobody has said it. None of the carvers had said, well, that didn't look as good as when I sent it. You know what I mean? So that's the biggest satisfaction for me on the decoy side is I got as close to a world champion carver as I could with a plastic decoy and an assembly line of painters. So
Pretty awesome. Pretty
nuts,
awesome.
like nuts.
That's really cool. You know, one thing I was really impressed with, I don't know all the names perfectly, but the quarter zip, lightweight hoodie.
Yeah, the Acuta.
I put that on, like, wow, I got really good range of motion with my arms. You know, sometimes
Pretty
that's
soft
not,
material, stretch.
Yeah.
That's why.
And then
It's a 4-way.
we get out in the blind, and I'm like, I don't even think about it. I just kind of put my hands in the pocket. I'm like, oh, those pockets are in the perfect place. You know, and it's just like I can tell that somebody really cares. I wear a ton of different gear from across the board in the outdoor industry. I used to do a lot of stuff with Drake.
Oh, yeah.
And
You've worn it all. We all have.
And yeah, exactly. But I'm just several things I've put on, and I'm like, they really, really thought this through. There's not like I'm pretty critical. Like I came through product management and product development, and like
You have that eye.
I'm really critical
mindset,
of
right.
anything that I use.
Yes.
And there's
Like, was this made right? Like, was this water bottle made
Nalgene
right?
nailed it, really. But, you know, occasionally you come across something that really, really stands out. Like, I got a truck rack system, Lightner Designs. Like, I put that on, and I'm like, they literally thought of everything. And that doesn't happen often. Usually it's like, man, why'd they do that thing? That was dumb, or I could have done this better. And,
and
I didn't feel that way with your stuff. So I'm saying really good job.
That's awesome. I mean, well, and listen, like, you know, like we go back to, okay, if somebody was designing that jacket that wasn't a waterfowler and didn't spend as many days in the field, and I'm not saying I know everything. I'm just saying, like, when you're in the field, that's when it happens.
You know.
You know what I mean? So on one of our jacket, well, on a lot of our jackets that are the heavier jackets, right? Not the quarter zip, but there's these two little pockets in the back and inside. Mm-hmm. And one of the younger kids, Kevin, who hunted with us in Oregon, he said, what are those for? He's like, are those to put like what are you hiding in that? I said, Kevin, those are for like hand warmers. And they go right over your kidneys, and you put them in. And when you sit back on your jacket, it warms your whole core. And he's like, what? And I was like, and he's a young kid, so he doesn't know the whole Johnny heater, you know what I mean? The whole, like, so, and I go, because I remember the first time I was like freezing in Idaho. We're on the Snake River. And one of the old guys goes, here, put this kidney belt on. Mm-hmm. And I was like taking clothes off like half hour later. You know, it changed my life, right? So I was like, oh my God. You know what I mean? Because once you get a chill on anything, like
it's hard to shake it.
You can't shake it.
Hard to shake it.
So why? So little things like that. You know what I mean? Kyle could probably tell you something on the clothing. Was there anything that stepped out to you?
The biggest thing was two-way zip on the bibs. So when you buried something in your pockets, it was like, oh yeah, I can still actually get to this. Right. Because otherwise, I ended up with keys buried, and then I'm stripping out of the bibs trying to get keys to the truck. I didn't have that issue. So that, and then just the upper pockets.
Yeah.
Fleece lined.
Yeah.
That's just.
The biggest thing for me was on the bibs. I'm a shorter guy, right? So I would always rip my bibs on the bottom because my bibs would hang, and I would rub my feet. Right. So eventually they would rip. So we made little cinches. So whatever boots and however tall or short you are, a silly little cinch will save your bibs. Like stuff like that. That's what I'm saying. Like that's the extra mile to go because I've had just like you said, I've had so many things fail or what went wrong or why didn't they do this? Like, let's just do it. Like, let's try to do it right. And I'm not saying we did everything right, but man, we really tried to go on all these little things that make an impact.
I have another thing. I think I said this out loud. Kyle was on the hunt. I don't know what you call them. The strap for your wrist.
The Velcro.
To tighten them up. I feel like as a civilization, we've been doing that thing for a really long time.
Yes.
And still nobody seems to have figured it out. I'm like, you need it to be able to like cinch up, and I don't want it to just like have a ball of fabric right next to me.
You don't want to have a hole.
Yeah.
Once you cinch it up and then water's just running in there.
Some of those things are a joke. So there might be some user error involved, but like I'm not a complete moron, just a slight one. So
Well, all you're
like,
supposed to do is just pull it and pull it
That's
over.
what I
So
thought.
it can't be that hard, right?
I did that the first time. I was like, somebody freaking figured it out. I don't know what took so long. Finally.
About time.
Finally. I don't know how many like North Face like ski jackets or whatever you have. I'm like, guys, the reason for that is so your gator can come over that, and like, it's absurd.
Yeah, no, I've
So-
dealt with it for years.
Yeah.
So
And we've really tried to, because the clothing part of Final Approach, that's totally new. Like we never did, Final Approach never did clothing, hoodies and stuff like that, but never like
outerwear.
Yeah. And we had like a group of guys, core guys that like I'm not the hey, it needs to be ripstop, it needs to be like this material. Like I'm not that guy.
Right.
But I'm the guy that says, "Oh yeah, put the little pockets here.
Right.
Do this." And I'm not saying I did all that, but I'm just saying like I'm the guy who tells you, "Well, this is going to fail or that's going to fail." Like that's me. I don't know, but they were all in on Primaloft, like top of the line fill to keep you warm,
Right.
the membrane to keep you dry. Like we went
It works.
way
I've been super impressed.
overboard.
Super impressed.
Because my biggest thing was, and Kyle knows this more than anybody from being out in Oregon. I mean, it poured.
oh yeah.
Like right here on a waterfowler, right here on your elbows and coming down. Like, what are you always doing? You're either on the blind,
Always.
on your waders, on the boat, somewhere where this is. And I kept saying for years and years, like, why doesn't somebody just put like an extra
Thing.
So we did. So we did.
Awesome.
Because like, and that just comes from like, that's where it fails.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the only way you fail is like you're either using enough stuff or it failed on you or you did something wrong and then now you know how to do it right. So we're just trying, we're trying hard. Like we're pushing the envelope as hard as we can.
I've been thoroughly impressed, and I think it's pretty much some of the best waterfowl gear out there. So, and I don't just say stuff like that.
Well, we appreciate that. And as Kyle knows, I have done enough to your shotguns to, hey, Kyle, I think I broke this. So, and it is, let me rephrase that. It is not the firearm's fault on whatever I did. It was self-induced.
It's
now,
somebody modifying things.
that's
You're
correct.
a tinkerer. We're tinkerers.
I do. Now, has the dog, oh my God, I got the Bottomland one, the 18i, and first hunt. We're in a flooded like field, backed up to timber, and I turn around to do something, and Jet moves on the dog stand and knocks it right off the thing, and it goes right in the water.
Well, that's just user error, really.
And I go, so take all the shells out, turn it upside down,
Let it
water's
drain.
just running.
Yeah.
Ducks are coming, so all right,
Let's do
load
this.
back up and just let's go. So I mean, it's taken a lot of abuse.
Yeah,
You
it
saw
sounds
the
like
stuff.
you take great care of it now.
I do.
Yeah.
I do great.
Yeah. Nothing like being told, no, we're not cleaning it at all this trip. Just leave it upside down. It's seasoning like a cast iron.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, hey.
I cleaned the guns before I came here. So just so you know.
Hey,
Now,
you be you.
I have cleaned. I probably clean the 18Is probably twice a year, unless it's really bad.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying don't, because like I'm not a stickler for cleaning, but I know when, hey, that was a really rough hunt, or we shot a lot of shells, and I know there's going to be a lot of power buildup in there, and
Sure.
it rained, so now it's going to be like cement.
Perfect
Like,
storm.
yeah, like I know I got to clean it, so that's easy. But the fit, the function, I just like I stepped out of one gun and stepped right into that, and I didn't skip a beat. Yep. I mean, I literally took the choke tube that I was using and went into here, and I'm like haven't
Ready to
changed
roll.
anything. Nothing.
It's awesome.
So
choke
we're-
tube and charging handle. I've seen that blue thing.
So I modified mine. I'm
Well,
a waterfowl guy. I'm a nut.
I'm not. I think that's great. It's a great
So-
platform to start doing that on.
Yeah.
You know?
So I mean, I'm just
It lends itself to it.
good
So
for you.
yeah.
So question.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear about your like most epic waterfowl hunt ever. When, where, and why?
You can ask Kyle that too.
Yeah, I'll ask you both.
Yeah.
So somebody's got to go first, though.
Okay, I probably have a couple. I'll pick one. I'll pick two,
Okay.
and they're totally opposite.
Okay.
Okay. First one is like more of a sentimental. Take my son, first time on the Columbia River, right? Take the boat, go down, and I mean we're down there all day, and he hasn't shot a duck. Like he's just like he's having a great time, but he's just struggling a little bit, right?
Birds are flying. He's missing, or
He's not shooting a lot.
Okay.
But he's just in it. So we sit down and have lunch, and we're sitting behind this big log, and we're in this bay. You hunted it.
Okay.
So a bunch of canvasbacks are out in the middle, and they come swimming right by us. So he gets the gun up, and I said, just put it on the big white one right there with the red head. Okay. Shoots, and they all get up and fly away. And he literally sits there and he cries. And he says, I just missed the king. And he goes, that was the king, wasn't it? Because
King can.
And I was like, you know what, buddy? It's okay. We're going to get him another day. And like the next week after, we go to a youth hunt in Sherwood there, and he shoots he shoots a monster pintail, and he shoots an incredible widgeon, right?
Yeah.
And the pintail's on the wall.
Nice.
So that's, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
yeah, yeah.
so that, and I'll let you go, and I'll pick another one.
All right. So there's every hunt's special for a different reason. So
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
One, I will say, I'll do my sentimental first.
Okay.
So sentimental would be up at Ryan's place, actually. Up
Gotcha.
at Strong's.
Yep.
It was actually the last hunt with my grandfather.
There you go.
So it was me, my dad, my grandfather, and Ryan. And it wasn't like a knock your socks off day. We saw more than enough pintails to fill a limit, but you know how that goes. You only shoot one a day in Oregon.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
but we shot our pintails, shot a fistful of other ducks. Nobody, is cleaning a limit out.
Right.
But it was just one of those like real fun hunts. And my grandfather is always kind of the jokester, so there was stuff going on in the blind, and it was also right about halfway through that hunt, I want to say, is when the dike broke on Ryan's, and it was low tide, so all the water just went out, and you're hunting a mud flat.
Oh my God.
But we were still killing, a bird here,
Birds,
a
right.
bird there, and watching pintails trying to land on mud.
No kidding.
Yeah,
That's
it was
pretty
just
cool.
crazy, but
Right
that
on.
was a good hunt. So,
Right on.
but you want me to go again for the crazy one?
Yeah. Because
Please.
I'm picking between two.
I'm gonna go Saskatchewan this year just for pure volume.
Oh my God.
And that was y'all were together.
That was us together. Yep. So I was up there for 2 weeks. Week with a different group of guys, and then a week with Mario. And it was the second week that was insane. Number of birds, amount of fun had. I mean, we shot a 72 duck limit in 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Just
That's, that's not possible.
Oh, it was. and you're sitting there,
That's
and the thing was
awesome.
like you're still picking up decoys, and they're still trying to come in.
Awesome.
They just want into the pea field to feed, like you wouldn't believe.
And that's field duck.
That is field duck hunting. Yeah.
Wow.
I
That's
did not.
super, super cool.
I did not put on a set of waders the whole trip, which
Yes.
is probably also why it was so amazing.
Yes.
Right.
No
Right.
doubt. So when I was working for Fred Zink, we would do a pro staff hunt.
Okay.
And when Zink got sold to Plano Synergy, I put a program together where these guys were going to do all these retail events and build up their points. And they knew like they could possibly go on a hunt at the end of the year, right? So the guys that would win, this year would go on the hunt the next year.
Sure.
Well, they were fighting for it
Sure.
because I was going to take everybody to Canada, right? And they were like fighting, like they were going to stab each other, right?
That's awesome.
So we end up taking like 1 year gets canceled because of snow. So he said, I'll just take everybody in the next year. So we took like 10 guys. So there's 10 staffers from you name it, all around the country. There's Michigan and Utah and Alabama
Right.
and Pennsylvania, and like you just go, right? And my buddy James that you met in Oregon, and Thistle in Oregon, and my buddy James and Mike, and you have all these different like guys and the way they hunt and the way they act and the way they just, nuts. And we shot, it was the most I ever shot in one morning. It was 183, right? And it was, you would think like it was just like a goat rope, like it was just so, guns going off, and it was so much fun.
No kidding.
Because guys were like shooting and then they wouldn't shoot. Like they wouldn't even care. Like everybody was having such a good time. They're like, oh, you guys shoot. Yeah. And we just pounded them.
That's awesome.
And everybody's joking. Everybody's laughing. And honest to God, that picture comes up on Facebook. Like out of any one of those guys in the party, it comes up on their thing. They immediately put it back up. And everybody that was there says, that was the best hunt I was ever on.
That's awesome.
Awesome. To do that with like 10 other guys, and we still talk about, that was years and years ago, and everybody still talks about it. Like that's the coolest thing. And some of those guys had never been to Canada and never experienced that. And that was cool to let them
super cool
see that.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Lights out. So it's just, that's the kind of stuff I live for. Like, taking people, getting people involved, experiencing it, getting products like when you say something about the jacket, or somebody says, oh man, those widgeon decoys, or that, like we did a spoonbill decoy this year, and I'm telling you what, people were going crazy because we really nailed the paint job.
Are they smiling big?
Oh bro, they
season?
are.
Did you put little teeth in there?
No, I didn't do the teeth.
Little spoonzilla.
I did not do the teeth, but I'll tell you
Not
what.
like some human teeth, that's smiling.
I think we hammered that paint job pretty good.
Nice.
Oh, it's a good looking decoy.
Nice.
And the guys were just like, everybody wants to laugh, but they put them out and they shoot them. So I don't want to hear it. You know what I mean? Everybody's
sure.
like, I don't shoot those. Yeah, bro,
Yeah,
I
you
shoot
do.
them.
Yep.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
I prefer to shoot them over your spread.
Yeah, I know you do.
That's awesome.
Sure.
Well, hopefully tomorrow morning will be our new favorite hunt. We'll see what happens. It's going to be weird. It's like 65 outside right now.
Yeah,
At
but
1
it's supposed
a.m.
to drop.
And
The
it's gonna
snow's
just
hitting.
plummet.
Yeah.
All the small water. It's been cold enough leading up to this warm
Yes.
day.
Yeah.
But the small water's all frozen.
Yeah.
We're hunting big water river tomorrow. Hopefully, there's some birds flying. I know there are some in town. So.
Oh man, I saw a good group in somebody's driveway. I almost grabbed the wheel and made Kyle pull over so I could band check him.
Right. Keep binos just for that, huh? Spotting
Pull over.
Gotta check for bands.
I want to see if I
Binos
could
are in the
read
center
it. I'll
console.
call it in and say where it is.
I love it. Well, Mario, it's so cool to see your passion for the products and for birds in general. So,
dude, this is a partnership, which is so cool. You know what I mean? Because, it's like, I could come up to you at SHOT Show and be like, hey, can we get some guns? Right?
Yeah.
But like, I've never been all about that. Like, it's a partnership. Like,
Yeah.
what do you guys need? Like, let's do this. Like, let's do that. Like, let's have fun.
Yeah.
And partner up instead of like, I hate the old like, hey, just give us stuff and we'll throw your logo up. Like,
Right.
that's not us.
That's
you
not,
know what I mean?
that's not our. That's
Yeah,
not really.
that's
how
what's
we
cool.
roll.
That's not your style either. So that's what's cool about this whole thing. And I think we can grow. Hopefully we can grow some more, big game Weatherby guys to start going on some duck hunts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or go on a goose hunt and, grab an element, grab a. If you go for upland, like I don't care, take whatever Weatherby you got.
I have
go.
waterfowl
You know what I mean?
hunted with an over/under before.
bros.
I don't recommend it, but it works. Killed birds.
Hey,
Yeah.
if
Killed
you're a
birds.
good shot, you're good. If
Yeah.
you need that third shell, I don't
I
ever want to
just-
be outnumbered. So
I'm hard, just like you. Like I'm hard on my guns in the field, and most over/unders. I'm just like, I feel like that's mean.
I'm gonna abuse it. Yeah. Oh no. Listen,
just not
my dad had my dad's collected forever, and those never went on a waterfowl hunt.
Yeah.
Ever.
That could be
I don't
tough.
care what it was. I don't care if it was an old side by side, or an over and under. Never made it on a waterfowl hunt because he knew what we were going to do to it.
You're gonna put them away wet, and they come. By the time you remember to pull them back out, you're like, it's too late.
Just bad things. Bad things
news.
happen. So
We saved ours for the gentleman hunt.
That's right.
That early season, it's the sun is up. This doesn't happen. oh, well, let's just go and only shoot nothing but Drake greenheads that are local birds because they don't know what's happened because season opened today.
Yeah, because they haven't figured it out.
Yeah.
They won't figure it out for another week.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah.
That's legal.
Well, I've got high hopes for tomorrow, so we'll see what happens.
I do
Mario,
too.
thanks for being here.
Oh,
Kyle,
man, thanks for having us.
joining us.
Always.
And that's all she wrote.
Awesome. Thank you.